Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, you're back with me today on the Investigative Journal on this Wednesday, August 30th, 2017 day on our calendar. And Hurricane Harvey still chugs along like a slow-moving man-made train of disaster, filled with more water than the earth can hold. Why don't they just keep it raining and raining for 40 days and 40 nights? Well, they should do 41 and 41 because they want to outdo the Creator. So do 41 days and 41 nights. Let's go over there and start building boats and getting those people out. Let's get them out of there. Let's get the animals out of there before they all get them on an ark. Did you see what's going on there? It's incredible. There was a report today that one town near Houston received so far 51.88 inches of rain, which is a new North American record. You did it, guys. You finally did it with your man-made weather modification. You finally set the record. And you know what upsets me? That you're not even thinking of the baseball game that they had to move to Tropicana Field. Yeah, because Houston was hosting the Texas Rangers. Did you plan that as well? So now they're in Florida playing. Got to keep baseball moving. And I know a lot of those ball players will have heavy hearts because they have friends and relatives there. I'm not trying to downplay that because they're not involved in this. But it's just ridiculous what they're doing. If you've watched those pictures, the amount of rain in that town, and I've been to Houston. In fact, my brother lived there for a while, and my niece taught school there for a year, and now she's at Berkeley Law School. But I'm glad she's not there. She was there 2 years ago. There was another smaller flood there a couple of years ago. I remember talking to my family about that, and she was okay. But she said, yeah, there was about a foot of water where she was at. But this is just out of this world. And you can thank the powers that be. Now, all of them go. Trump arrived there today and said the same old story. You've heard it in Katrina when Bush went there, or whoever. When was that? Yeah. So long ago now. I mean, there's one disaster after another. What they got next? They're already planning the next one, whatever that's going to be. Another flood event, maybe. Maybe they'll go for something bigger. Like, for example, arming North Korea through Western money, giving them nuclear weapons, and then playing this Hegelian dialectic with us that North Korea wants to blow up all of our allies in America. In fact, they lobbed a missile over Japan the other day, and the Japanese were sounding their alarms and telling people to get in bunkers, and this missile went flying over Japan into the Pacific or somewhere. So they're really playing it up right now. And I predict there's going to be something big in the next 30, 40 days. I've said that before. And, I'm going to say it again. And probably if I keep saying it, I'll be right one of these days. Because I'm telling you, things are starting to heat up and I mean literally with the weather modification. They're heating up the atmosphere. And the poor people, I've got some friends that live in the Southern California area up around LA, and they're baking to death. It's like 115 in the valley. If you've ever been there, and it gets to like 100, you die there. It gets to 115, you might as well just not go outside. It's just incredible. They're heating the atmosphere up. And people say, oh no, it's global warming. Folks, there is no global warming. That is a myth. Al Gore was like the head man. He got rich, millionaire, billionaire over that. And he has no science to prove it. Again, do the research. And people still, I went out today and asked 10 Mexican people. And it's easy because I'm in town there, and I got a little computer where I can talk in English, then it comes out in Spanish, and it's really hindering me from learning the language. They use a woman's voice, so I wish they'd use a man's. So anyway, I asked today, what do you think of Donald Trump? Oh, did I get some great answers. I only found 1 out of 10 that liked him. And one of the nice things he said was, yes, maybe our people will stay here and build a great country. Very positive. I like that. But the negativity was immense. And things like, he's a buffoon. How could America should be embarrassed. All he wants to do is cause divisions between us. We're going to end up having another war, and we're going to raid the Alamo. That was what one guy said. So I get a lot of different comments, and I might do it with some other subjects here to get a view about the Mexican people, how they feel about America. And there's enough Americans here, though. I mean, there's a lot of Americans where I live. They come here because it's cheaper to live. So anyway, back to Hurricane Harvey. It's now, listen to this, it's making another swing out into the ocean, coming back again. I think it's its 3rd time they're circling. This thing is amazing what they're doing. And people go, oh, it's global warming. Look at the weather's changing. And then we'll get the people, and there are fanatical Christians. I mean, and I'm not talking about Bible-believing Christians, but there are fanatical Christians where anything like this, they'll say it's the end times is tomorrow. God is bringing down the heavens. And I just want to remind them that this is a weather modification made by man. So there you go. I mean, what else can I say about that? I want to update you on my iPet Go 2 contest. It was a writing contest. iPet Go 2 is a little video out that really tells you what they have in store for us. I mean, it's filled with all these occult signs and symbols, and I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if I held a writing contest? And I said, watch the video. I displayed it. It's still on my website. I haven't brought it to the top of the blog because there's only one person that's joined it so far. And if nobody else joins it, he's going to be the winner anyway. And I'll read his he said something really good, and I'll wait to see if I get more people. Now, I've charged $25. Now, I think I have a lot of cheapies out there. And what I mean by cheapies is, $25 isn't that much. First, to keep the radio show going, if you listen a lot. And secondly, if you want to really delve into that, and I think you'd learn a lot, and I think you might even inspire other people, because if we had a lot of people that decided to join the contest, I feel like I threw a party and nobody came. You know how that feels? You feel like, well, why do I even do this show? I mean, come on, people. Is it that much of a difficulty to do? Or maybe you just don't have the, you don't have the patience anymore to sit down and do it. Maybe you're fed up with it. I got an email from a friend who I knew him in Rome, and he now lives in New Jersey. And he says he's done with the internet. He's never going. He texts a lot. Well, he emails a lot of things, and he's not going to email anymore. He's said everything he can say, and he's not going to be seen again on the internet. I know how he feels. I know exactly how he feels. Every other day I go, that's it. I'm done. And then something pulls me back again. Remember that Al Pacino line in The Godfather? But anyway, since I got nothing better to do lately, I'll keep doing the show. But if something better comes along, you better watch out, people. And then a lot of people go, God, finally, he's off the air. Get rid of him. Get rid of him. Well, you people will miss me when I'm gone. And you better believe you will. And then you'll all wish that you put in $25 and you decided to use your brain and do the iPet Go 2 contest. So I'm asking you again, come on, people, let's do that contest. Don't let this one man be the winner. I mean, he's got no competition right now. Somebody join. At least make it a 2-horse race. You can't have a 1-horse race. And a little trivia, what was the best 2-horse race ever? There's been a couple of them. Why don't you give me 2 of them? And who won? And you will be amazed. I'll tell you tomorrow. Okay. Racehorses, 2-horse racehorses. And the greatest racehorses were involved. And there were 2. I'm just asking for 2. There are many 2-horse races. But the 2 best. Okay. See if I have any racing enthusiasts that listen. Okay. What are we going to do today? I got 10 minutes out of the way. And, Hurricane Harvey's on everybody's mind. I've talked, not anybody that I haven't talked to that's not glued to the TV set if they have one. I don't have one, so I'm glad I'm not glued to it. But I do go and get all the videos and watch the devastation like everybody else. And aren't we attracted to it? Oh, yes. Boy, when it's far away, let the rain fall, right? And then, that's before Hurricane Harvey. And I wrote a little piece about that. We have this anticipation. Oh, God, it's going to be in Houston. And they say it's a Cat 1. And then they say it's going to be a 4. And I bet you it's not going to be a 4. I'm tired of watching TV and watching all this stuff. And then to be let down. It's only a Category 2. What the hell were they talking about? I don't see any damage. I don't see anything. But this time you got your wish. People who think like that. I admit, I'm one of the first people. Driving by a car accident, I go, oh my God, I hope there's a lot of blood. Let me see the blood. As long as it's not mine, I'm fine with it. I know a lot of people think the same thing. But afterwards, what happens, and it really happened this time. You got your wish. If you live afar, if you live a long way from Houston, you got your wish. But what do you feel then? You feel remorse. You feel guilt. You feel, geez, boy, I feel sorry for these people. I really do. I really do feel sorry for them. And what do you do then? Some people donate money to charities. And then you don't know if the charity is going to ever give the money to the people. Then what else do? You talk to your friends about it. You call everybody you know and you go, hey, did you see that guy in a refrigerator, pushing a refrigerator with his family in there? Hey, did you hear about that policeman who drowned in his squad car when he was trying to go help somebody? Hey, did you see that truck driver? His truck overturned and they were doing a news report and the guy was drowning and I think he did die in that truck, and the news reporter was crying. Or did you see all the animals, some of the cows just laying dead on the street? And you call everybody you know and you share that and everybody feels bad and wonders, what can I do to help? Well, I went through that in Katrina and I finally decided, in my life I'm going to do one good thing for someone. What I mean by that is, I've been glued to the radio so long that I think that this actually helps people. So I figured, I don't have to do anything else. But back in Katrina, I felt like I needed to. And I ran into Clotilde Mack. I explained that story. And I really helped that woman get back into her home. And I'm sitting here going, man, how come I'm not doing it now in Houston? It's because when I was doing I was on a bigger radio station where a lot of people listened. And now I'm on a small station where hardly anybody listens, so nobody even knows. I don't even know what's going on. And so, I'm kind of isolated. But really, if you got a chance, if you haven't, look, maybe that's all I was destined to do, is just help one person in one of these disasters. But that's one more than many people. And so maybe if you're out there and listening and you want to help, the way to really help is to go find somebody and help them. That way you send $50, you don't know where it's going. Half the time, it goes into a charity, 90% goes to the administrators, or it's a bogus charity where they set it up and then they take your money. So, I think the best way is to, I really admire, there's a lot of these firemen from all over the country are going over there to assist, and they're going to feel some really satisfaction of helping their fellow man. But, it doesn't even have to be this way. If our fellow man didn't create this disaster, that's what's so sad. And then our fellow leaders go and they talk garbage to us. Like, oh, now we're going to do everything to help you. We're going to get everything's in place. Don't worry. It's going to be 10 years before everything's in order, and we're going to pump in a lot of money. You watch what happens. They're going to steal more land than you ever saw in your life. And that's what they say one thing on the, for the TV, and then in the background you got all these people going, hey, how can I get this piece of property? What do I have to do to get you out of this property today? A bunch of swindlers will be there. Don't worry about it. Oh, and then there'll be another swindle. Here's one of the better ones. And this happened after Katrina. Can you believe it? These car dealers, these shady guys, they go buy for nothing. They pick up all these cars that have been flooded out, and then they bring them to another state like California or somewhere else, and then they sell them as if they were just regular used cars. And then the car falls apart. So watch out for used cars now when you're after this event, because they'll go over there and start picking these things up for nothing, then bringing them, they do a nice job of making it look like the car's in great shape. But do one of those, whatever they do, where the car came from, where it was, and if it's from Houston during this period of time, I would watch out if it's a used car, because there'll be a lot of swindlers. They did it. There are thousands of them that came from Katrina like that, and many people bought them all over the place. They sent them to Chicago. They got a bunch of, the consumer guys had to go after them there. They sent them to Boston. They sent them to California, to L.A., to San Francisco. And how many cars are going to be there? And they'll go down there and they'll start buying them up soon as they can get them out of that water. So, if you see like you're driving, you're going out and you're looking for a red SUV, Dodge, it might just be that one in that picture where all you could see was the top of the roof. So watch out. When you buy trucks too, boats, they do the same damn thing. Overturned boats, trucks, motorcycles, you name it. If there's a profit to be made, there's a crook around to do it. And a lot of unsuspecting people will buy shitty cars, just like they did after Katrina. So this is your fellow man. You got good fellow men that go and help, and you got these crazy fellow men that caused the disaster, and then you got those who profit from it. Just like, let's just talk a little bit about how the world really works when it comes to finances. Because in the second half hour, I'm going to give you the 5 main reasons how you can turn a world into a global situation, into globalization, a new world order. The 5 reasons. And I'm not going to get into the spiritual or anything. And it's amazing to me, all these stories I see regarding the new world order. They talk about the Rothschild bankers, and they talk about all this stuff. They talk about how communism was funded by the West. How most of the military armament was purchased through Western money. And the same thing's going on in Korea. If you trace it now, it's either going to be China or U.S. that have given this dictator the means and the wherewithal to have nuclear weapons. And did you know that North Korea has the largest standing army in the world? And we built that one too. Because we got to find an enemy. I mean, come on. That's what it's all about. If we don't have an enemy, don't worry, we'll create one. And that's what they've done throughout the course of history. Hey, they sit around in their little booth. They sit around in their little tunnel between Georgetown University and the White House. And they go, hey, we don't have any enemies. How can we get enemies? And they figure out ways to create enemies. And they follow the money. You got to have money. You got to have weapons. You got to have an ideology that's completely different from, democracy and freedom. And so let's create all these adversaries so that we have something to do. Wouldn't it be boring if it was just a peaceful world, they say? We can't have that. My goodness. We can't allow people to really enjoy their lives. We have to create chaos. And this is how we make money. The more wars, the more adversaries, the more we can then tell our people we're going to protect them and the people will pay for it. Don't worry, they'll pay. Just like they paid for NASA when there was that crazy scare about, Russia's going to get to the moon first. Do you realize that there is no moon, there's no space station up there? No, it doesn't exist. Look at it. It's a flimsy little piece of you-know-what. And all it is a computer graphic. Now, so where do these people go? For example, they got a couple of women that's supposed to spend a year in the space station. Where do they go if they don't go up there? They can't stay in America. Somebody's going to find out. They sent, where they have a training center? In Russia. It's outside of Russia. It's very enclosed. All of the astronauts go there. So they go to this place and they spend a year there. And we're at odds with Russia or China. Chinese guys are there too. It's just like the Antarctica Treaty. We're all fighting each other, but we all agree that nobody goes into Antarctica. It's because it ain't what they tell us it is. So we got, this phony space station, and that's where those people go. And that's what is going on, folks. They're, not only so then what could they do? NASA, back during the space thing, we can't let Russia is a big power. We got to get there first. So we spent billions of dollars for, a Hollywood set making a movie about how they went to the moon. Incredible. And it gets worse after that. Now they're going to do it to Mars. Why haven't we gone back since? Because we never went there in the first place. And they figured if we got away with it once, we may not get away with it twice, so they just stopped going. It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. And people know that, but they still believe these people. Are they putting something in the water outside of just arsenic and all that stuff that kills you? I mean, are they putting some kind of little potion in the water that makes people just submissive, obedient workers and slaves and go, yes, government, yes, Vatican, yes, you are the best, you're the Holy Father, and the President of the United States is a good man. My goodness, they must be doing it because there aren't many people who are catching on. And those that do, 90%, even the ones that catch on, never get to the real story of all roads lead to Rome, which I concentrate on. And the reason is, if you want to defeat an enemy, you got to cut the head of the snake off. Now, I'm not saying we're ever going to defeat them, but you got to have that in your mind. You got to say, hey, listen, look, it's kind of like playing a football game, and you are a high school team going up against the Chicago Bears. You know you're going to lose. But listen, you're not going to tell yourself that. Never once would that go through your mind. You know it, and then you put it out of your mind and you say, no, we're going to do everything we can. We're going to get to the bottom of everything. We're going to dissect every one of their plays. We're going to know everything about their players. We're going to do everything we can to win, even though there's such a remote possibility that by the time you get to the game, you never know what will happen. And the same thing with trying to defeat the Vatican-led New World Order. Seems like it's impossible. But if you give up even before you try, then you never even have the courage to figure it out. So I always, in a sense, lie to myself. I say, yes, we're going to defeat them. I'm going to find out every possibility to do it. Even though when I started out, I knew it was impossible. But the more I think about it, the more I'd rather live that way with that hope. Because it keeps you awake in the morning, gets you up in the morning. I don't wake up defeated. I wake up ready to go and ready to defeat the Vatican-led New World Order. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Okay, we are back for the second half hour, and I hope you got something out of that first half hour, reminiscing a bit about Katrina and my experiences there, as well as highlighting some really important things regarding the manufacturing of Harvey. One thing I did want to say about it that's weird is Harvey is, what's the most famous movie with the name Harvey? Of course, it's Jimmy Stewart who had this idea. He spoke to a big white rabbit. Now, white rabbits are very occultish. So, is there a connection between Harvey, the Jimmy Stewart movie, and the white rabbits? Remember at the Easter festival at the White House where the kids all come? That the big white rabbit was right next to Trump? I don't know. I just thought about that. But this half hour I want to talk about how rich is the Catholic Church and the Vatican. It's really impossible to tell, I tried to figure it out many times. I use a case called Alprin v. Vatican Bank as a guidepost to try and figure it out, because that's what Attorney John Levy was trying to do when he was suing the Vatican in federal court in the Ninth Circuit here up in San Francisco for reparations of the Vatican's involvement in the genocide in Croatia right after World War II. And during discovery, John had the right to delve into the finances of the Vatican. And he said it was like impossible to figure out anything because they had no record. It was unprecedented. If a corporation or anybody would have done this, the court would have had a fit. But they sided, of course, with the Vatican. And in the end, after John Levy, because I asked John, I said, if anybody should know how much money they have, you do, because you've been after them for a long time in a number of cases. And he explained it to me totally like this. You got to differentiate between the Holy See and the Vatican. And then you got to find out where, first of all, when you're dealing with the Vatican Bank in Rome, there's no overseeing. It's all hidden, laundered money. And the money laundering, he said, is even worse today than it was when he started the lawsuit, probably 15 years ago. And he said, Greg, it's like trying to grab a tiger by the tail or to get an alligator to sit down and eat dinner with you. There are so many loopholes and so many things, and the courts protect them, he said. He said, I could not get legitimate discovery. Questions that any corporation or any entity would have to answer under penalty of perjury. The Vatican skirts by, he said, and they're protected by the Ninth Circuit judges. So in the end, guess what? They strung his case out for 10 years, then dropped it on technical grounds, saying that there was no jurisdiction. And if you don't know much about law, which means they never got to the real meat of the case, because they said, John, you don't have standing to sue because the Vatican doesn't do business in the United States. And I said, John, what kind of nonsense is that? The Vatican doesn't do business in the United States. Now that's a new one. They're probably the richest organization in the United States and in the world. So when I get an article sent to me, and Emily Stewart tried to figure this question out in 2015, and she wrote an article called How Rich is the Catholic Church? Is it possible to tell? And I said, Emily, it's not possible, but you can give it a shot. John gave it a shot. The case was dropped. He then took it to the EU courts, because he's a licensed barrister. And they then dumped it, and now he's got it in some kind of tribunal somewhere, still trying to get the major question. Let me see your book so we can get reparations for the Holocaust, the genocide that we can prove, and they did prove it through depositions. I read the depositions because they had eyewitness testimony that came to the deposition, a former CIA agent who testified to the fact they were involved, and they stole the gold and were also involved in the killing of these people. So that's what we're up against, folks. A cover-up to the max, even in this kind of thing. So here's what I'd like to do. Let's go over Emily's article. Okay, so she goes after one of the most difficult questions you'll ever be able to answer. And let's see if she made any inroads. She said, feeling guilty about investing in sin stocks, like makers of guns, cigarettes, and alcohol products? You know, you want to get on the stock market. Do you want to put money into some of these cigarette companies just to make money while they're killing people? She said, but don't feel guilty, because over the course of history of investing, the Catholic Church and the Vatican have done much worse. In the 60s, Italian media uncovered evidence that the Vatican had invested in entities that conflict directly with the Church's holy mission. Oh, is that new? Including Instituto di Farmacologico Serrano, a pharmaceutical company that made birth control pills. But they invested in it, but then they'll come out and say, we're for the right to life. And Udine, a military weapons manufacturer. There have also been unconfirmed rumors of church money in firearms manufacturers Beretta and companies with activities in gambling and pornography. It has been linked to the dealings with the Nazi gold during World War II as well. Well, let's go back to this. Yes, they have interest not only investing in gambling, they own casinos. They have part interest with mafia members. They work hand in toe, hand in glove with mafias. Nazi gold, yeah. Hitler's mentor was Pope Pius XII. Don't you think he's going to get a cut of the action? And what about the Albuquerque Vatican Bank case I just mentioned? She goes on to say the Vatican has a history of corruption. That she's correct. I'd say a pretty long history. Let's say ever since it was started. And it's a notoriously opaque institution. Sexual abuse accusations and constant cover-ups have put it in the headlines most recently. But it has been a center of numerous scandals over the years. You know, this is like, for me, this is like, you know, if I was in a class right now, I'd be bored. I mean, tell me something I don't know. But for the sake of most dumb Americans, 99% of them, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory way, I should have said dumbed down Americans that have not been given an opportunity to get to the stories. But you know what ticks me off? Is if you do get to some of these people, they're so blind that they won't give you a chance to even clear things up. So I don't feel sorry for those people. Now, these accusations, ties to the mob, aren't accusations. We can prove them. How about allegations of stealing babies in Chile and Spain? Well, how about the slave trade they've been involved with for hundreds of years, and they still are today? How about the pedophile rings that the big cardinals, even the cardinals of New York, are involved in? We can go on and on. And then what about, she starts looking back at Pope Francis when he visited the U.S. And she says, credited with bringing enormous change to the Catholic Church since his election in 2013. Now here's where the thing gets propaganda, and this is where she's way off base. She's trying to depict Francis as this guy that's come in and cleaned up the bank. He hasn't done anything. I just had a big discussion with John Levy about this. They've done absolutely nothing. It's all words. They come out and they say, yes, we're cleaning up the corruption, but then the corruption goes on. What's the best way? It would be like, remember Al Capone? When he was given a free ride by the Chicago police, he'd come out and say, they got nothing on me. I've cleaned up my bank. I've got everything in order. He was the biggest crook ever to walk the streets of Chicago. But who's the biggest crook to walk the streets of the world? Pope Francis, who's saying, oh, we cleaned up the church. Oh, we cleaned up the bank accounts. And she says, Francis has made major overhauls at the Institute of Works of Religion, commonly referred to as a Vatican Bank, a privately held financial institution founded in 1942, blah, 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 blah. He has not done a thing, and he only says it. And let me tell you, from inside sources in Rome, it's worse today, Emily. So I don't know where you're coming from on this. But this is the kind of stuff you got to deal with. You know, even the people that come out and try to do something, they don't get the straight and narrow. They think Francis is some kind of hero. The bank has faced numerous scandals over the years, yeah. One of the most, this is the one. She thinks she knows a lot here. Let me tell you, I was right there. I saw it all. This is nothing. The collapse of the Banco Ambrosiano, in which the Vatican Bank was the main shareholder. The Italian bank went under after making what was estimated at $1.4 billion in unsecured loans to dummy companies in Latin America. At the center of the investigation, she gets into Calvi, Archbishop Marcinkus, the head of the bank. In the wake of the scandal, Calvi was found dead, hanging in the Blackfriars Bridge. She said from a bridge. It was the Blackfriars Bridge in London. In what is largely believed to be a fake suicide. Yes, it was a fake suicide. Then they were caught up recently in this scandal with Monsignor Nunzio Scarano, who was an accountant at the bank that managed the church's real estate investments. Was arrested when he tried to smuggle 20 million euros in 2013 when the plot was uncovered into Italy, allegedly on behalf of the Amico shipping family. He told authorities he stood up to gain 2.5 million on the deal. What do these priests do with this money? This is a corrupt organization. I don't know how anybody can be a member of the Catholic Church. I really don't. You know, investigators were first alerted to him when he reported paintings stolen from his apartment, and the police discovered a luxurious pad packed to the ceiling with expensive art and furnishings. Here's where I picked this article out because I just can't believe people think things are better there. She goes, things have come a long way since then. In fact, Scarano's arrest could be seen as part of the move towards reform. Are you kidding me, Emily? Are you really kidding me? You think there's going to be reform? Come on. You must be writing for these people. The Vatican passed its first legislation against money laundering. You know, I'm about ready to throw up here. You think they're not money laundering today even more? The best way to get... Okay, look. Why doesn't somebody hold them accountable for all their corruption before you start saying that they're making amends? This is not amends. They should all be in jail for life. The church should be shut down. You can't just say, oh, they were bad in the past, but now they're okay. They've changed their ways. But what about everything in the past, Emily? You're just going to give them a free ride? And now say everything's okay? She writes for them. She's got to write for them. And this is what ticks me off the most, is people will read this and believe it. The Vatican passed its first legislation against money laundering and terrorist group funding in 2011. Well, tell me, why don't they clean their house regarding the Alpern v. Vatican Bank case then right now? You want to know some other things they're not talking about? And I got personal knowledge, you know, because I know the attorneys working on the cases. It's all sugarcoat. It's all sugar-coated for the media. So, Francis is bringing change. At the Vatican Bank, Pope Francis has brought in a new leadership, increased transparency, and limited access to banks. I don't know if I'm going to get through the next 12 minutes here. I really don't. This is the kind of crap you get. I mean, I look for things like this because they're filled with it in the internet. Vaticanites writing this crap. She works for them, and she's making it look like, the Vatican was so bad in the past, but Francis is going to clean it up. He's worse than them all. He's a Jesuit. You ever read the Jesuit Oath, Emily? The best way to get people off your back is to say, we've done everything. You can pass legislation, but if it isn't enforced, what good is it? And if you have less people getting access to the bank, that leaves it open for more corruption because this bank has no oversight. It's a money laundering operation. And it still is. According to people that I know, it's laundering more money than it did 20 years ago. And she's telling me the bank is now under his watch. The bank has disclosed its very first annual financial report. You going to believe that? You know something? It's like the government's financial report, Emily. It's flawed. And let me tell you why it's flawed. I'm not even going to talk about the Vatican because there's no oversight. You're talking about an organization, the smallest country in the world, that's got over 100 and I don't know how many, almost 200 concordats with countries, and they deal with dictators. It's all black money. It's all money under the table. And you're going to tell me this financial report is any good? And you know what? Even a government's financial report, you know what they show you? They show you how much money they spent and how much taxes they put in. They don't put in the fact that the city of Santa Monica owns the Santa Monica golf course, and what's that worth? You know, we went through this years ago on government financial statements. They ain't worth a crap. They own more land. They're probably the Vatican and the government are the two richest organizations in the country, and they all show like they're losing money. because their financial reports are flawed. They don't have to show their investments. They don't have to show that this congressman, or they decided to invest your hard-earned tax money into a deal that went sour, or a deal on condominiums that made them a lot of money. Where does that money go? A lot of times it lines the pockets of the politicians and the people who get the contracts. And in the case of the Vatican, they're getting money all over the place. And you're telling me that Francis is now the savior of the Vatican Bank? Give me a break. I'm going to tell you a story, Emily. Remember Pope John Paul, before John Paul II? He really wanted to clean up the Vatican Bank, and they killed him. And I got eyewitness people talking about it still. I know someone talked to him 10 days before, and that was one of his things he wanted to do, and he was killed. Do you think they're going to allow Francis to do? Come on. This is such a joke article. And, then she gets into a number of things here. She starts talking about this guy Valley and Joe Valley, who wrote these transparency stories, and this guy saying, things look like they're on the reform process. They're having a tough time moving into the world of the 21st century transparency, said Gerald Posner, an American investigative journalist and the author of the 2015 book God's Bankers, A History of Money and Power. And he's probably right here. I think Posner, I haven't read this, but I have read certain excerpts. And think of the Vatican Bank as sort of the equivalent of the Federal Reserve. We know everything the Fed does. We get minutes from the meetings. Here they're investing literally billions, but it's always in the dark, and they don't know how to operate any other way. Well, listen, the Federal Reserve, Mr. Posner, is probably the biggest crooked organization. Who do you think started the Federal Reserve? The Vatican. So, we got a lot of work to do. And, a lot of times this stuff, Avro Manhattan and his stuff was probably the best. And I'm not even going to read this because it is just so outlandish what they're telling you as far as their investments. They give you, the Vatican Bank's 2014 report lists its total assets. And they, at $3.6 billion, give me a break. That's chump change. Here's a great line in her article. In the United States, where financial transparency is strong and corruption not as common, where does she come from? Is she on a different flat earth than me? Does she come from a different human race? Or is she covering for these people? Don't tell me we're transparent in our finances here. Do you know anything about the Federal Reserve? That it's not federal? It's the biggest scam organization known to man? And you're telling me we're transparent? And then she goes, in fact, thanks to the way the U.S. legal system is set up, it may be the place where the church's holdings are most opaque. Give me... I got to end on that. This woman has no idea of the truth. And she writes this crap and probably gets paid well for it. When I say the world is upside down, these stories show you how it is. You start out with a simple question like, how rich is the Vatican? Then you got to listen to liars like her, and she's got to be working for them. She can't be just maybe she's just some stupid stooge. I don't know. But it's ridiculous. And to listen, to look at the legal system in the United States and say, they're going to have a tough time in hiding the truth here. Did I just not mention the Alpern v. Vatican Bank case as a benchmark? The judges are corrupt. Remember what Sherman Skolnick said? The most endangered species in this country is an honest judge. And they cover for the Vatican. The Vatican does what they want here. They can hide. They work with criminals. They work with the mob. They work with crooked politicians. There's not one honest politician around anymore. And if he is, he's not going to be around very long. What about the Clintons? If Miss Emily here, if our system is so non-corrupt, how do we allow the killing family of the Clintons to money launder, to do everything under the sun in this country without any justice? Ask yourself that. And you give me this bogus article that people are going to actually believe you. Let me set the record straight. Francis and these people are Satanists. They'll do whatever they can to get ahead. They don't care about their criminal justice system doesn't work. It covers for them. And if a judge doesn't play ball, they'll kill him. If they can kill presidents, they can kill anybody. And you're telling me that Pope Francis is the savior of the banking system and that the United States legal system and our government is very transparent? You've just made my day, because I wanted to get angry today about something. And I didn't want it to be over a stupid thing, like not being able to find my socks or getting mad because the car didn't start. Well, that hopefully never happens. And what else? I could think of 100 other little things I could have gotten mad over today because I was just looking for one thing. And I didn't want it to be something stupid. I also didn't want it to be, if somebody I met said something wrong to me today, I could have blew up. That's the mood I was in. So I'm glad I read this, because now I'm done. I'm over. I'm not going to get angry anymore today. No, I'm done. I found what I wanted to get angry about. I needed to get angry. Now I'll blow it over and I'll feel good. I'll be smiling. Have a good evening. And it reminds me of like when I lived in Italy. Oh, I miss it. Living in Mexico is a little better. Spanish people are a little more open, but they're a little more closed than Italians. I used to love Italians. They'd argue over anything. And then the next minute they'd be kissing each other. Let off a little steam. Don't be afraid. Say what's on your mind. That's what I did today. But what better subject to get angry about than a stupid woman writing this article and making the biggest of errors, and people are going to believe it. And either she works with them or she really doesn't get it. And whatever it is, she shouldn't be allowed to do that. Really not. If it was my world, that article would have been pulled a long time ago. And if I was her editor, I'd say, Emily, you got a long way to go, but don't hand me this crap. If you want to do a real story on the Vatican, I'll get you some sources here, and then you come back with something that's worth it. But that's what we deal with in this world with the journalists. Why? I am even disgusted that I was a journalist. Really. I mean, I picked that because I was so naive. I said, there's freedom of speech. I'm going to be a hero. I'm going to tell the world everything. And you know what? You can't ever get to the truth. You can, it's like talking to 30. I might as well have a little phone conversation with people. As many people that listen to the truth in this country, especially if you're on a Christian station, they just turn it off as soon as they hear the word Christian. But anyway, I'm all out of time. I got angry at what I wanted to, and I'm going to have a good, happy evening. I hope you do too. See you back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.